Welcome to episode 49 of KinFit. I'm Michael.
I'm Tiffany, and today we are filming at the practice rink for the Montreal Canadiens. But they're not actually here.
No, they're probably preparing for the game tonight against the New York Rangers. But there is a garage league going on behind us, and there is also a minor hockey game on their second rink. There is also a FIFA-sized soccer field in this facility, so we'll definitely check that out later on as well.
All right, so let's get on to Fit News. So what's going on in Fit News this week?
Well, a recent survey was released by Statistics Canada earlier last week. The survey was on the fitness levels of all Canadians in this country. They actually measured different genders and different age groups, and what they did was they didn't actually just take the weight of each person and calculate the results. What they did was that they actually measured each individual person on their fitness level. So they actually measured not only their BMI, but they also measured their cardio levels. In terms of strength, they measured grip strength and partial curl-ups, and they also measured blood pressure. And the results were quite outstanding. Compared to 1981, Canadians have been getting more unfit. The obesity rate has been increasing as well. The survey did focus on children a lot, and they noticed that children nowadays compared to those from 1981 have not only been getting taller, but they've been getting heavier and fatter and more out of shape.
Yeah, so something we want to keep on top of.
Yeah, and they did also mention some contributing factors as well, such as nowadays we've been using more cars and public transportation to get around, so we don't walk as much. Kids don't seem to play as much as well. They're always stuck indoors watching TV and playing video games like adults as well. And there's a lot of factors involved, but these are some of the things that we might start changing in our daily routine so that we get more fit.
Yes, like more active video games.
Yeah.
All right, so on my end, I have some numbers for you. The city of New York is looking to reduce the salt content in the restaurant foods by about 25%, which is great. And if you remember, New York was also the city that pushed to ban trans fat in restaurants as well. So they really want to make some headway with this, so this is great. In general, though, in Canada, we were looking to decrease the salt content in processed foods by about 30%, so that would be awesome. I think this is over the span of about 5 years, so we have some time to get our butts on this. But companies like Campbell's have taken the initiative, and they're actually working to reduce the sodium content in their products by about 50%. So if they can actually do that, hopefully some other companies will start participating in this, and that will help to reduce a lot of health risks for the future.
And the last bit of news I wanted to talk about is a news article that I read on the Calgary Herald. It's actually an article on nutrients that can help reduce inflammation in your joints. So for those who suffer from chronic injuries that have a lot of inflammation and a lot of pain, this is an interesting article that you read up about. They do mention that these are nutrients that quote unquote may reduce inflammation. So the key word here is may. So don't start taking all these nutrients just because you think it might reduce inflammation, and then you find out that you're still in pain. But these are suggestions that you might want to consider. So in the article, they list different types of nutrients that will help reduce inflammation. They mentioned folic acid, vitamin D, and fiber, and they had descriptions for each. They also mentioned what not to take in your diet that might cause more pain and inflammation. And they also, at the end of the article, they actually mentioned different types of foods that may contain these nutrients that you might want to try out in your daily diet.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be it for Fit News this week.
On this week's Fit Tip, we're going to take a look at the standard bridge position, and we're going to see how we can modify it so you actually can get a decent workout in your hamstrings. Now, we're all familiar with the standard bridge position. It's a good exercise for your core. Now, in this position, as you can see, your hips are elevated, your legs are in line with your upper body. Okay, you want to make sure your abs, your low back, and your hips are in contraction to maintain this position. But your position of feet are also important. You want to make sure your feet are hip width apart. Okay, they don't want to be glued together, but you also have to make sure that they're not too wide apart as well. Now, also, you want to make sure your feet are close to your body so that when you're in that elevated position, your knees are bent 90 degrees. Okay, and you don't want it too far away so that your knees are not in that 90-degree position. Okay, because that can cause a lot of strain in your low back. Okay, and once we start showing you the hip raises, okay, you want to make sure you feel it a lot in your hamstrings. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that by incorporating this movement of extending and lowering your hips, okay, this does work out your hamstrings quite a bit. Okay, for most of us who are well in shape, Okay, this might be a little bit too easy for you, so you might want to increase the level of difficulty by progressing to the single leg hip raise. So again, as Vincent comes up, okay, you keep one leg elevated. Again, the knee is bent 90 degrees. Also, the hips, the position of the hips is really important. You don't want any rotation of the hips throughout the movement, throughout the motion. So as Vincent comes up, you want to make sure that your hips are parallel to the ground. Make sure that at the end of the movement, your legs, your hips are in line with your upper body, okay? For those of you who find that the single leg is easy as well, you might want to start incorporating some equipment into this. We're going to demonstrate this on the Bosu. Okay, so with the Bosu, your feet are a little bit more elevated, so this will increase this will increase the workout in your hamstrings. Now, you want to make sure that your feet are flat on the Bosu. You don't want just your heels on the Bosu, but you want to make sure your feet are flat on the Bosu. The Bosu and your feet are close to the ground so that when you do come up, again, your knees are still kept at that 90 degrees. Your hips are in line with your upper body, and there are no rotation of the hips, and they stay parallel to the ground. Again, progression to this is the single leg. So you want to make sure that, again, you're in full extension at the top. Okay, you want to lower your body with a good tempo. You don't want to be too quick. And again, with this exercise here, you'll feel more of a workout in your hamstrings. Now, if you don't have a Bosu readily available, you can also use a step or a bench, okay, at the gym. You just have to make sure that when you do keep your feet on the step of the bench, that they stay flat on the bench. You don't want to be on your heels. You can also use an exercise ball. Now, the exercise ball is it's a more advanced exercise. When I say advanced, it's because you have to make sure your core is strong enough and contracted so that you don't roll away, okay? Because if you don't have control of your upper body, it does increase the risk of injury. So as Vincent is demonstrating, his feet are flat on the ball, okay? His hips are in full extension, your legs are in line with your upper body, you do feel a lot of your hamstrings, and again, the hips do not rotate. They always stay parallel to the ground. Now, core strength is really important. Like I said, it does reduce the risk of injury by maintaining proper position of your upper body. Again, you can also change this into a single leg exercise if you want, but it is a more advanced exercise, so I would only recommend it for those who find the previous ones a little bit too easy. So this wraps up this week's episode, this week's Fit Tip, and we will see you next time. So if you may recall, back in episode 47, we had mentioned a couple of software programs you can install on your computer to help you take breaks while you work on your computer at home or at work. Now, we did promise you a review, so that's what we're going to do today. I actually reviewed the Microsoft version. It's called Workrave. What you get is like a little floating window that you could minimize. You don't have to have it on your desktop, but it is recommended. And on that little floating window, it has actually little time counters, basically for your micro break, for your rest break, and there's also a duration counter. What's interesting and what's neat about the program is that you can actually set your own times for your micro breaks and your rest breaks and the work duration. So you don't actually have to follow the default settings that you get once you install the program. When my micro break was about to set in, it would pop a little warning box telling me to get ready to stop working. If I kept working, what happens is that the little picture on the warning box it was a little light bulb with a smiley face, and if I kept working, it became a little frowning face. So it would actually show me that and start flashing, telling me to stop working. For the rest break, however, it was very similar. Another box would pop up showing me the exercises that I should be doing, with a counter as well telling me how long I should be doing those exercises. Now, I actually didn't have to do all the exercises that were recommended. I can actually skip and do the next exercise on that list. You also don't have to wait for your rest break to do those exercises. You can actually click on the little button on that floating window to take your rest break right away. So you can do your exercises whenever you want as well.
So on my end, I tracked a Mac version of this software. It's not the same one. It's called TimeOut, and I really liked it. It was very pretty, first of all, and actually very, very simple, easy to use. So simple, in fact, that once I installed it, I didn't even know it was installed because it just sort of blended in with everything else. But there is a little menu bar, and you can choose also, once again, there's micro breaks and larger rest breaks. And what happens is when the breaks come up, your screen sort of fades a little bit, and you do get the option if you want to continue with your break or you want to skip the break. So I was really tight on time, so I had to skip the break, unfortunately. It's not something I recommend though, but I can see how that would probably happen quite often if you had a deadline coming up, a lot of work to do. Using that option is still, it's a a good thing to have, but you probably shouldn't be using that option too often, because there's a reason why we want you to take those micro breaks, to give your eyes a rest, and just to relax a little bit and stretch and move. So all in all, very similar program though in terms of what it has, and I would definitely encourage everyone to use something like this if you have a desk job and you're on the computer for several hours a day, because it will probably save you a lot of back aches or neck aches and eye strains.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have the links to both programs in our show notes, so definitely go check that out, and that wraps up this week's review on the run. So this wraps up this episode of KinFit.
Please check back our show notes for all the important pieces of information we want you to find out about.
And if you have any ideas, suggestions, or questions you want to ask us, just email them to us at info@kinfit.tv.
Big thank you goes out to Vincent and Tracy for helping us out today.
So remember, don't quit.
Stay fit. Helping us out today.
And don't forget, don't quit.
And I was just saying that how good you were.
That's okay, we'll keep that for